I would like to invite Deepashri ma'am to conduct the session.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, ma'am.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, ma'am. You are.
Okay. So, good evening, students. So, before dealing and starting with today's class, I want to introduce myself. I am Deepashri Chanda, and I will be teaching the botany portion for your syllabus. Okay. So, Revati ma'am has been starting and doing the living world, the diversity part from the zoology perspective, but I will be doing it from the botany perspective. Okay, so today we will be doing just this part, this living world, and let's see how much we can finish. Hopefully, it is clear to everyone. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Very good evening, everyone, and welcome again. So let's start with the living world with the biological, botanical perspective. Okay, so what is the living world? So we know the life can be defined like as an aggregation of different molecules, right? So it is a unique aggregation of different molecules, the molecules what are this and what's so special about these molecules? These molecules have the tendency to express themselves through various chemical reactions, which are collectively referred to as the metabolical reactions. So these reactions, the reactions which are performed by these molecules and the aggregation of this molecule that forms the life are the metabolical reactions. Okay, so metabolical reactions can be of two types, anabolism and different types of the catabolism. And these are the different forms. So living being is living in almost every possible habitats like through forest, mountain, deserts, ocean, freshwater. We all know this, right? So they are likely to be surrounded by sharing the common genetic material. So all the living beings share the characteristics that actually make them respond to a particular nature. So that is the reason through metabolism, biomolecules are synthesized, which actually help the organism to develop, and it also results in the growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation, reproduction. So I mean to say the life forms that possess all these features are called the living beings. So that's what the definition of living being is. In your exam, often in the Neet, they can be giving the different characteristics. Okay, so what are the characters that describe the living beings? And maybe in option A they will be giving growth, development. In next option they will be giving response, adaptation. Third option they will meet reproduction, and they will ask that what are the different characteristics you think are needed for an organism to be called a living organism. So your answer will be all the above. Okay, so these are the these are the types of the other sort of the questions you can expect for your NEET. Okay.
Ma'am, is growth also a
Yeah.
defining character
Yes,
of
growth
living
is
beings?
very much a defining factor. Okay, so growth,
But ma'am,
yeah.
growth can be occur in non-living things also, no?
Yes, but growth, wait. See, growth, development, do non-living things develop? Like a chair,
No.
maybe you have heard, suppose the chair is made of iron. Okay, so when you are
Yes.
providing heat, it's expanding. But is the chair is looking like a bathtub now? No, the chair is still looking the same. And
Yes.
their growth is not like too much of growth. Suddenly a small chair will not become a huge chair, right? It will never become like
Yes.
that. So the characteristics of the living organisms are growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, metabolism, cellular organization, and the consciousness. Okay. So
Okay, ma'am.
these are the main characteristics. These will together form an organism to be a living organism. So this is how you read the NCERT book. Okay. So NCERT book, while reading at first, it seems like it's quite simple, but no. These are the points you have to remember. Okay. So that is the reason I'm highlighting this point so that it does not get out of your mind or after completing the entire syllabus. So what are the main characteristics of the living organism? Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, metabolism, cellular organization, and the consciousness. Okay. So living beings live in almost all possible habitats like forest, mountain, deserts, which are linked to one another by sharing the common genetic material. Okay. So what are these are something I just told you that these are the different characteristics of the living organism, and each and every point is very important. Okay. So now we will be discussing what is growth, what is reproduction, what is responsiveness to the external environment, metabolism, and so on. So what is growth? Anyone can tell me what is growth? So
Growth is a
yeah, say.
permanent and irreversible increase in the size of living organism.
Living organism, very good. So that is what? So in your exam, maybe growth, this is the proper definition of growth, okay? But can you expect this type of question in a MCQ? No, because they will not be writing you they will not be writing you definitions, right, in the exam. Moreover, what type of question and points can come? Suppose growth means increase in body mass, increase in the number of the cells. That is the reason. Just think that is the reason when the steel or the iron of the chair is growing, we are not calling it as a growth, but we are calling the growth of a child as a growth, because in iron the molecules are being expanded. It's not like there has been an increase in molecular number, right? But in our living organisms, in our future classes, we will be seeing that the cells are increasing in number by cell division during reproduction, during growth. So that results in increase in body mass. Okay, so that is the main growth for the growth characteristics of the living organism. So it's increase in number, mass of the cells by cell division. All living organisms grow, and increase in the number of the cells. In plants, the growth is continuous. Okay, so that is occurring throughout the lifespan. But in animals, growth is only up to a certain age, and however cell division occurs to replace the lost cells. Okay, so cell division is occurring to create new cells also, that is developing a new organism. And also cell division, suppose some of the cells are damaged, and there also cell division is occurring, right? So we are all humans, we are not Hydra or Planaria, right? So when we get a cut on our body, obviously our immune system heals. So there also cell division is occurring, na? So there also the loss of the cells are being replenished by this cell division. Do you think you are giving birth to a new human when there is a cut on your screen? No. But rather that is a simple form of the growth where cell division is just replenishing the lost parts. Okay. Okay. So unicellular organisms also grow by cell division, and non-living objects grow by accumulating the nutrients. Someone asked me about the growth of the non-living organisms. So that is what it is written here. Non-living objects grow by the accumulation of the material. Like mountains, we have heard, sometimes we hear in news that the Mount Everest is still growing, or Himalayas are still moving. So which causes the tectonic plates to move, resulting in the increase in the heights of mountains. So that is a different form of the growth, which is quite different from our living organisms. Okay, so is this part clear about the growth thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so in plants, growth occurs continuously throughout their life. Unicellular organisms also grow by cell division. Non-living objects grow by accumulation of the material. And here it is also written that the mountains, boulders, sand, mounds, etc. So growth can be taken as a defining property of living organisms alone. A dead organism does not grow. Just remember this, a dead organism does not grow. Okay. See. Now, fungi multiply, spread easily. So now next comes the process of the reproduction. So in living organism, an important criteria is the reproduction. Okay, so what is reproduction? Reproduction means formation of a new individual of the same species from the parents. Okay, so this part is very important, of same species. We as a human cannot reproduce a cow, or we as a human cannot mate with species, with different species. Okay, so we can mate with another human of opposite gender, but we can never mate with an organism of different species. All humans are of same species, right? Irrespective of their religion, whether one
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
whether one is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, we all are Homo sapiens, right? So we can mate with each other to create a new fertile offspring. Okay, but we can't mate with a dog or a cat or a organism of different species. They are of different species level. Okay, so we can't mate with them to give rise to a fertile organism. Why? Because our eggs will just cancel off that. They are gametes. Okay, so that is the basic definition for reproduction. So fungi multiply and spread by producing millions of asexual spores. Hydra, this slide is very important because they can give you match and join. Fungi, and in the right hand column, they can give you asexual spores. Hydra by budding, yeast by budding, planaria is a flatworm. Okay, remember planaria is a flatworm. That is the reason I mentioned. Tapeworm, roundworm are different things. We will be learning it in the future chapters, but planaria is a flatworm. Okay, so that regenerates its lost part and becomes a new one. Filamentous algae, protonema of mosses, fungi also multiply by fragmentation. Listen, there are huge number of the organisms reproducing by different ways, but these are the most common which you should know, and above all, exams do focus on these organisms. So these are the few organisms name and their mode of reproduction I have mentioned in the slide. Go through this slide and memorize this slide very efficiently, because match and join can be a very probable question from this slide. Or they can even ask you what is the mode for reproduction for a filamentous algae. Okay, or for the protonema of mosses. Then you can say that it's by multiplication by fragmentation. So these are the, if you know, you can answer easily. Okay, so just remember this. Okay, so living organisms, reproduction means formation of the individuals from their parents, as I already discussed. So is this part clear? Reproduction and growth.
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Yeah, so see, there are two important points. It is written in unicellular organism, reproduction is synonymous with growth. I just now mentioned we are not Hydra. So if there is a cut in our body, our cell division replenishes that lost part. But if in Hydra, a part is cut off, then a new Hydra develops from their body. Okay, so see, when the new organism is developing, obviously the wound is being healed. So that is growth. And also a new hydra is producing. So that is reproduction. So in unicellular organisms, mostly reproduction is synonymous with growth. Now, how tricky can they make the question is that Suppose they are asking about the features of reproduction. Okay, so the features of living organism. Suppose they say that reproduction and growth are always different. They are using the term always. So the statement becomes false. Assertion reasoning, so the statement becomes false. Okay. I said synonyms, but see in this example that growth and reproduction sometimes may be synonymous. Yes, it is true that growth and reproduction are mostly non-synonymous, but they are using in the question if they give that growth and reproduction is always non-synonymous. Always. So that becomes a false statement. But if they say that sometimes reproduction and growth become synonymous, then it becomes a true statement. Or even if they give that maybe growth and reproduction is synonymous, then also the statement becomes true. Is this part clear? What is the
Yes, ma'am.
difference between an absolute statement and the doubting statement? Okay, so these are the tricky parts they do while setting the question paper. So just read what they are telling. Are they stating the fact that it's like stating the fact means the sun rises in the east. It's a stating statement. There is no maybe. So the sun may rise in the east. No, that's a false statement. The sun always rises in the east. So that's a stating statement. So it becomes true. But you know that for unicellular organisms, growth and reproduction are quite synonymous to each other. So the absolute statement becomes false. Okay. And suppose they give that reproduction is not followed by all living organisms cannot reproduce. This statement again becomes false. Why? Because most organisms reproduced, but some organisms may not reproduce, like mules, worker bees, infertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction is not the perfect defining characteristics of the living organism. See, when I say species mate between themselves to produce a fertile offspring, maybe, see, two infertile human couple. What you can say is that two humans are only mating, right? But it is for their health conditions, they cannot reproduce. So these are some of the exceptions. And in biology, nothing is absolute. Okay, so there may be some exceptions. So whenever you are dealing with a absolute statement, try to remember that if there are any exceptions or not before answering or attempting that question. Okay. So these are the type of tricks they do while giving or setting the question paper. Is this part clear till now? So next, let's start with the metabolism. So what is metabolism and why do we need metabolism? Metabolism is, we living organisms are made up of molecules, and molecules are what? Molecules are making the living organism. Living organism, we call it as bio. So molecules are making living organisms. So these molecules are called biomolecules. Okay. So we all know that molecules have a tendency to interact with each other, right? So in chemistry, you are learning a lot that there are different kinds of the molecules that are also always interacting with each other. Molecules means they will do and go some reactions. So that is the basic fundamental nature for molecules. We are actually the sack of molecules, right? So obviously in our body, biochemical changes are occurring. That means biomolecules are reacting with us, within ourselves. And these reactions of the biomolecules creates metabolism. What does this mean? Our biomolecules are reacting through biochemical changes, produces a new product. So maybe the interconversion of the chemicals. So all this chemical reaction take place in our body under metabolism. Non-living things do not metabolize. You can never see a chair is metabolizing. Can you see? No. That a chair needs food, then the chair is metabolizing. No, that never happens. We only living organisms show the property of metabolism. However, metabolic reactions can be mimicked under in vitro conditions. In vitro, see, in vitro means something we are doing under lab under different conditions. But that is a lab setup. In lab, we can do a lot of things, but it's not happening in real life. So again, see, it's not an absolute statement that metabolism can be performed only by living organism, because metabolism can be mimicked under in vitro conditions also. Okay, so is this part clear? A metabolism
Ma'am, we
reproduction
can,
growth. Say.
ma'am, we can say that metabolism is also a defining property. Why we will
Yeah,
say
metabolism
growth
can
only?
be a very good defining property, because see, most of the non-living organisms don't metabolize, right? Can you even think of any example apart from the lab setup? In lab setup, we are just we are just making an organism to do. Like in circus, we are making a lion to do different tricks. Does that mean that the lion will be performing the same tricks in the jungle? No. So that's a different scenario, different environment. But metabolism can be a very good property that can be used to define the living organism, right? So that can be a specific property. So next comes the cellular organization. What is cellular organization? All the living beings are made up of cells. Cells perform all the functions. Non-living things do not have cellular organization. That means it can be seen that cellular organization gives to functions like life-like metabolism, growth, reproduction. The cellular organization is a different defining characteristics of the living organism. Just like metabolism. Here, all the living organisms are made up of cells. Non-living organisms are made up of molecules. We all living organisms are made up of cells. Maybe there can be only one cell in the body. We call them as unicellular. Those are the prokaryotes, but we are multicellular. So there are different cells in our body. And that is the reason we call ourselves as the eukaryotic organisms. We will be dealing this in the different chapters, but I guess you just know the terms, prokaryotic and the eukaryotic. And we all know different many cells. Aggregation of the cells make tissue. Tissue makes organ makes organ system, and with different organ system, it's us. It's a complete human. So cells are the building blocks of the life. Without cell, we are nothing. Within the cells, metabolic reactions are occurring. And those metabolic reactions are the governing properties that actually decides our state of mind. Even if you think about hormones, who are secreting and who are controlling the secretion of hormones? Obviously, the cells. Cells are interacting with each other because they are getting a certain stimulus from the environment. Suppose someone has beaten you up. You feel sad because that's an external stimulus that someone is hitting you. So obviously, those cells will be interacting among themselves and give rise to a certain hormone. Suppose cortisol is released. So cortisol makes you angry, okay? So then you hit them back. So that is the expression of your cells. Your cells are controlling you. So you can question me that then what is brain? Is not the brain controlling us? Yes, obviously the brain is controlling us, but brain is an organ. Brain is made up of cells. I just told that different cells make tissues and different tissues make one organ. So now the cells in the brain are quite different from the cells in hand. It's just like the people of Ambanis are very different from us, we common people, right? So similarly, but we all are human beings. Similarly, cells have this categorization. Cells of the brain are quite different from cells of your hand. Cells of your hand are different from the cells of your liver, and so on. Okay, so all the living organisms are made up of cells, and these cells are actually the stuffs that actually, what I will say, govern you, control you, who you are. Okay, so is this part clear to everyone? Cellular organization. Next comes the consciousness. So what is the consciousness? It's how you are reacting to the external environment, like awareness of one's environment, actions, and it is present only in the living organism. If you hit a punching bag, would you expect the punching bag to hit you? No. Now, someone can question, if I hit a gun, then there is something called recoiling of the gun. So that is different. So that comes under third laws of the Newton. Each and every action has its equal and opposite reaction. But is the gun hitting you because the gun is angry with you? No, right? But you are hitting someone on being hit because it's your consciousness. When someone is talking nicely, unless and until if you are lunatic, you are not going to hit that person, right? But if someone has hit you, you will be obviously hitting them back, because it is your consciousness. It's not like the recoiling of the gun that the opposite force is making you. There are many people you can see, even if you hit them, they are not hitting you back. So if the recoiling of the gun statement is correct for humans, every man would have given this opposite reaction, unless and until the person is handicapped, right? So actually, for living organisms, there is a term called consciousness. Consciousness is when you are aware of your environment and your actions and your intentions. And that is present only in the living organism. If you kick a chair, will it kick you back? No, it will just fall down, right? So that is the difference between the non-living organism and the living organisms. Human beings like us sense the environment through sense organs. Plant respond through light, temperature, water, pollutants. In both plants and animals, photoperiod affects the reproduction in the seasonal breeders. Therefore, all living organisms are well aware of their surroundings. So it is the defining property of all the living organism. Okay, so human is the only organism having self-consciousness, that is aware of himself. Consciousness is the defining property of living organism, and all living organisms are linked to one another by sharing the common genetic material to varying degree. So in this slide, you have to remember plants respond to factors like light, temperature, water, pollutants, etc. Both plants and animals' photoperiod, that is the duration of light, affects the reproduction for the seasonal breeders. What are seasonal breeders? These breeders can give rise to the organism only in one season. Okay. So for them, it's not common in humans. It's actually not a property for humans. The presence of sunlight cannot decide our mating time or the mating period. Humans are not seasonal breeders. Okay, we are continuous breeders. We can breed any time of the year and any time of the month. But this photoperiod can affect some plants and animals for their reproduction. Similarly, plants respond to light, temperature, water, pollutants, and the other organisms also. So all the organisms are well aware of their surroundings, and only humans have the self-consciousness. Okay, that is aware of himself. So consciousness is the defining property of the living organism. So hopefully the properties of the living organism has been clear. And if not, you can just raise your hand and ask me question. So can I just move to the next part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what are the diversities of the living world? So diversity means how we all are different. Okay. So we often in a meme, you can see that we share 99% genetic similarity with a chimpanzee. But chimpanzees are chimpanzee and we are humans. We look quite different from our ancestor, which is the chimpanzee. So this 1% of the genetic variance is creating a so much variation in the human beings. And when we will be learning about the genetics, we will be understanding this in more details, that why a chimpanzee being chimpanzee and we being we in spite of 99% of the similarities. Okay, so this now what is this diversity? Why did I say this story? Because diversity is being created solely by evolution. And how this evolution is provided. Suppose in humans also we can see a lot of diversity. Are all the humans exactly the same? I guess no. All humans are not same. Okay, so you can see a child who is born in a wealthy family. Suppose he or she is being used to AC or the air conditioner throughout the whole life. And some other kid who was born in a normal middle class family is not being well habituated with AC 24/7. Okay, so suppose we keep both these humans in a non-AC environment. So who will be better surviving without complaining for a longer period of time? Obviously, the kid with the who was born in a normal family. So this is where your environment is playing a different, I will say, a main part in building who you are. So Earth provides this environment. So Earth provides the physical base for the living beings. That's what the statement means. There are millions of varieties in the living organisms in the whole world around us. It's just saying that there are millions of different species. Okay, so there are also many organisms that we cannot see with our naked eye around us. Those are called microorganisms, and they are found in different habitats. Some microorganisms can thrive or can live in an extremely hot condition, and some organism can live in an extremely cold condition. Okay, so can you see the difference? Both are microorganisms, but one is the thermophile, another is the halophile. So different habitats like mountains, oceans, forests, lakes, deserts, and even hot water. So number of species identified and studied is 1.7 to 1.8 million. Okay, so this part can come in your exam, that what are the total number of the species identified and studied. It is 1.7 million to 1.8 million. Okay. Okay. So all the organisms which live on Earth together make up the natural diversity. The diversity means variation. So this natural diversity on Earth is generally called biological diversity. In short, we call it as the biodiversity. Okay. Okay, so taxonomy is something Revati ma'am has been doing with you a lot. So why do we need to do this taxonomy? Suppose, just forget you all that you all are NEET aspirants. Just for the sake of understanding, let's suppose that we are scientists. Okay, so you are working in a lab and you got a new organism. And supposedly new organism, you don't know that whether this organism exists or not. So what will you do if there was no taxonomy? You know that in taxonomy there are kingdom, phyla, class, order, and so on and so forth. But suppose there is no such system called taxonomy. So you will be defining each character, that this organism looks like cockroach, but eats like insect, but eats like a mosquito. its genetic variation is quite different. So for each and every organism, you have to learn a series of specific characteristics, right? So for suppose you have identified a different variant of cockroach, but you can't write it as a cockroach because there is no taxonomy. So as a zoologist, you will, after few years, you will be mad because you can't remember. As a human, you can't remember so many millions of organisms, you can't remember. So that is the reason in ancient times it was uh, decided that let's introduce systematics. We will be identifying the organism, and if I see that suppose I discovered a new organism that looks like cockroach, but I'm not sure it is a cockroach or not, so let's place that organism under kingdom Arthropoda. Okay, so next time when someone is interacting with the organism which you have recently placed under kingdom Arthropoda, will know that okay, this organism has this kind of name. It is a arthropod. This has been placed under arthropod. So obviously it will have a characteristics of the cockroach. Okay, so suppose I am a human and my friend is also a human. We are basic humans and we share same characteristics, same physical characteristics, like we have hands, legs, eyes. Don't consider the handicapped cases, but these are in general, right? We all have these hands, legs, and so on. But suppose an alien is coming to Earth. How will they know that me and my friend both are from same species? They will say, okay, I am interacting with a new organism. It has hands, legs, eyes. It talks in a specific language. It has consciousness. So maybe it is Homo sapiens. Okay, so maybe it's a Homo sapiens. So that is how taxonomy has been helping the helping people from the time immemorial, and we are dealing with taxonomy in the branch of science which is called the systematics. So is this part clear? What is systematics and why the systematics term came? So this is something you have to remember, because sometimes with the name of the scientist also they have started giving questions like systematics includes evolutionary history along with taxonomic characteristics of an organism. Systematic is as old as human civilization. Taxonomy term was first introduced by A.P.D. Candolle in 1813. This is something you have to remember. And systematic in Latin means systema. It means the systematic arrangement of organism. Systema Naturae is the book written by Linnaeus. So this question frequently comes for your boards, and systematics, Latin systema, it means systematic arrangement of the organism. So far we discussed. And neo-systematics is a concept of the systematics that considers a species to be the product of the evolution. And this concept was developed by Julia Huxley in 1940. So don't get confused with systematics and neo-systematics. Just in your question paper, just read whether they are asking you about the neo-systematics or they are asking you about the systematics part. Okay, if they are asking you about the systematics part, it's Linnaeus. But if they are asking you about the neo-systematic part, it is actually done by Julia Huxley. So it takes into consideration all the known characteristics of an organism and all the known evidences from the different fields of biology. So far, what I have discussed with the alien stuff, that suppose an alien is coming and it has come in contact with a human, but it does not know whether it is a human or not. So maybe he is bald, and according to the basic characteristics of Homo sapiens have hair. So he will be, the alien will be sure that, okay, this is a Homo sapien. So that is why the concept for taxonomy and the systematics has been introduced. Now, what is the identification? Identification is when the alien is coming to Earth, they are first seen. okay, this looks like a human. Then by using its analytical power, it is saying that, okay, that it is placing an organism in a specific category because it has certain, I'm sorry, just wait. Sorry for the interruption caused. Okay, so classification is when the alien is just using its analytical power to actually describe the organism. Like it has hair, it has eyes, it has hands, it has legs. So maybe the organism will be placed under the Homo sapiens. So is this part clear? Identification and classification. Identification is to determine the exact place or the position of an organism in the set plan of classification. And classification is placing the organism or a group of organisms in the specific category according to the particular system in conformity with the nomenclature system. So is this part clear? Okay. Just wait. Okay. Characterization is when you understand the characteristics of the organisms, like the external and the internal characteristics, and morphology and the anatomical and the structures of the cells and its ecological information. So, like where the organisms live, it is a single cellular or a multicellular, how the organisms look, that is the characterization. So, considering all these properties, we nomenclate that particular organization. So what is the nomenclature? Nomenclature means after considering the identification, classification, and the characterization, we nomenclate the organism, like naming the organism, like naming of the living organism is the nomenclature. Names are two types. Vernacular means common names and the scientific names. Local name means local name is in Bengali. I am from Kolkata. In Bengali, humans are called Manush. But in scientific names, we call them as Homo sapiens. So local names are in the local languages or the common languages, and local names are easy to be used by the local people. But these local names cannot be used by biologists due to certain drawbacks. Can anyone tell me what is the main drawback for using the local names to nomenclate a particular organism? Can anyone just tell me what is the main drawback for using the local name by the biologist? So it is actually because of the fact that the local names or the local language is being used by some groups of people only. If you are a tourist to that particular spot, obviously you won't understand that what they are saying, what they are what they are saying or what they want to say. Okay, so that is the reason local names are not being used by the biologist due to this drawback. And the local names sometimes lead incorrect meaning, because sometimes one word meaning a specific thing in your language may be meaning different thing in the different languages. So different local names are used to recognize an organism in different regions of the country or the world. So these local names vary with the languages. So these are the main drawbacks why the biologists don't use the local name to nomenclate a particular organism. Okay. So that is the reason scientific names have come. So scientific names, actually, the names which are given by the biologist are on the different principles on the criteria. So those principles and the criteria are being accepted all over the world to accomplish that the certain international codes. Okay, so just wait. Yeah. So drawbacks of this local names, this is just how what I have discussed just now. So scientific names are being used by the biologists, which are on different principles and the criteria. So these are actually acceptable all over the world, and to accomplish this, certain codes have been developed. These codes are very important. You have to remember these names, because often they can give you the short forms and they can ask you the full form. Okay, or match and join. So ICBN, ICZN, ICBN, and ICBN or ICNB. So these are the ICBN can be known for the botanical nomenclature or the bacteriological nomenclature. In your exam, the ICBN won't be coming for both. Like the options won't be for the botanical and the bacteriological. Okay. Or ICZN is for the zoological and VN is for the viral. So you have to remember this. So Carolus Linnaeus was the first person who used this nomenclature system for the first time and proposed the scientific name of the plants and animals. So he was the person who was the founder of binomial nomenclature. And the book that he proposed is actually named as the species Plantarum. Okay, so Carolus Linnaeus, the book names are very important, like the Carolus Plantarum. So this is species Plantarum, and the nomenclature which was introduced by him is the binomial nomenclature. So frequently they can ask you about the Carolus Linnaeus, the books they have written, and the type of nomenclature which was used. Okay. Okay. And so this is the main book, which is the species Plantarum. Apart from this species Plantarum, in binomial nomenclature, the scientific names, you know that there is given the generic name and the which is the genus name and the species name. Okay, so like the Magnifera indica. Magnifera indica is the scientific name for mango. So anyone can study and describe the characteristics of the mango after knowing the scientific name, because from the Magnifera indica they will be knowing that the which kingdom they are, which species they are. Indica species means these are the characteristics. So mango will be showing this many characteristics and so on. Okay, so next class we will be starting with the points who can give the scientific names, what are the rules which was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus to give the scientific names and so on. So till now, can we just summarize what we have learned for the last 5 minutes? Just can anyone tell me what we did, or what are the topics that we actually covered? So we actually did the living, we started with the living world. And with the living world, we did with what is growing. So before that, we have described in detail what are living organisms. So what can be life? What is the living organism? How life can be defined? Life is the aggregation of the cells. These are all the things we have defined. Then we have started with what is growing. Then we have discussed with the characteristics of the living organisms, which are the 6 characteristics like growth, reproduction, ability to see environment, metabolism, cellular organization, consciousness. Then growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization, consciousness. These are the different characteristics. We have discussed that reproduction is not an absolute property for the living organism. Why? Because the concept for mules, because mules, infertile couples cannot reproduce, but still they are the living organisms. Obviously, we have discussed about that. So from that, after that, we have discussed about metabolism. So how metabolism is working in our body, that the molecules are being reacting with each other to produce a byproduct, and this byproduct will give rise to the new organism. We have discussed this. We have discussed about cellular organization, how the cells are interacting with each other. Okay, so how the cells are making each other and the tissues and the organs, and how they actually give rise to the new organism. We have learned that. We have learned about consciousness, that humans are very self-conscious, and apart from this, non-living organisms are not very self-conscious. So consciousness, we have also learned about the consciousness property. We have also learned, then studied the diversity of the living organism, like what is taxonomy, what is the meaning of taxonomy, why the taxonomy is needed. And we have also discussed the alien concept, that if an alien comes to Earth, how will they know without memorizing all the characteristics? So we know about taxonomy. So systematics, neo-systematics, we have discussed who are the neo-system, like who discovered the neo-systematics and so on. Then identification, classification, characterization, nomenclature. And we also learned that Carolus Linnaeus was the first person who just did this and introduced the topic. So next class, we will be learning about what are the rules we can be using while using the binomial nomenclature. And also we will be seeing who can give this nomenclature, what are the different taxonomical categories and the hierarchy. Okay, so is this part clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then I just want to end my class now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Again, we will meet tomorrow at 7. And morning 5 to 7 also we have class. Okay, Harika?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, please join morning classes. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, Harika. Bye. Sir, you can end the meeting, sir.